Hi, I'm Paul from SET English. In today's class, what we're going to have a look at is general healthcare vocabulary. I'm going to introduce the idea of it and then talk about how it can help because our students definitely have issues with this. A lot of students, they're mainly focused on technical vocabulary and they're worried. They think appendicitis, cholecystectomy, diarrhea. How am I going to spell these? What do they mean? I need to learn these new phrases. And it is true that in some parts of the exam, it's very helpful. It is necessary. But there are other parts of the exam where we need to have something which is a bit more general and a bit more accessible. Okay? So I'm going to go through a few words, a few examples, and then give you some advice. But before we get started, don't forget, if you want to find a really useful general vocabulary PDF, all you have to do is click the link below and you can download it immediately. Please like and subscribe. All right, okay, so let's go and have a look at an example. Okay, I've got an example here. It's just a typical interaction between a nurse and a patient. All right, have a think about all of the language that's used. Here we go. All right, so it starts like this. Nurse, do you have any concerns about your upcoming procedure? Okay, so something's going to happen to the patient. Okay, so the patient says, yeah, I'm worried about what if it will affect my tennis. Oh, must be a tennis player then. Okay, so what does the nurse do? There must be a bit of reassurance, maybe a bit of empathy. Let's have a look. I understand you're concerned. Nice, yeah, good bit of empathy. You will have a small wound in your right axilla, but it will heal quickly. Was there some vocabulary there that seemed a bit strange? Look again. You will have a small wound in your right axilla. Axilla. Your right axilla. What's that? Axilla. Well, I learned recently that the axilla is another word for the armpit. Okay, so obviously that would affect their tennis, wouldn't it? But it's a bit of a strange thing to say to this patient in this situation. So what I want to do is I want to find a few of those bits of vocabulary and just present them to you, and then we'll do a quick exercise. All right, okay, so here is some vocabulary. I'm just going to put them onto the screen, see how many of them you know. Waist, dimple, armpit, pinky finger, palm, thigh, sole, belly button, calf, forehead, nape. Okay, how many of those do you know? Now, if you actually do know a lot of those words, then that means you've got pretty good general English for medical situations. These are not taught in medical textbooks. These are words that you come across through experience of English. So here's my exercise. I've got a model and I've got some words over there on the left. And what I want you to do is I want you to match those words with those numbers where they're pointing to. You can see that I've got behind for number 10, number 3. That means it's not pointing directly at where it is. It's just behind it on the other side, the sort of anterior side of the body. And for 11, it's under. So it's under the foot. All right, so I suggest that what you do is you pause the video now and then give yourself as long as you like. But I'm going to count down from 5 and then start going through the answers. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now, before we do it, don't forget, if you want this document with some useful vocabulary, click the link below. You get a really useful PDF. Like and subscribe. Okay, so here we go. Forehead, starting at the top. Forehead. Dimple. The dimple is here on the side of your face. Sometimes babies have them when they smile. Nape, that's the area on the back of your neck. Armpit, the axilla, that's the armpit here, okay? Gets a bit smelly if you play tennis, okay? We've got belly button, where the umbilical cord was attached. Here we've got the palm of your hand, okay? We've got pinky finger, which is here. The thigh, that front muscle at the top of the thigh. Kneecap, otherwise known as the patella, okay? Then you've got the calf muscle at the back of the lower leg, and underneath your foot, you've got the sole. Now, these are the kinds of vocabulary that we should be using in certain parts of OET. So it begs the question, why is this important? Well, which parts of the exam are we going to use it in? All right, so let's have a look. Speaking, listening part A and listening part B. In speaking, don't forget, you're going to be speaking to a patient or the carer of a patient. Okay, so you are speaking to a non-medical person. Okay, that means a couple of things. One, they will use non-medical language, and it's best to grade your language. Now, you might not know what that phrase means, to grade your language, but basically it means make your language more simple for your audience. So we mentioned kneecap and patella before. If you're speaking to a child, you wouldn't say, you might notice that your patella feels a bit strange, because they don't know what a patella is, all right? Likewise, even adults don't know what it is. So kneecap is a good bit of graded language that you could use there. All right, let's go back. Listening part A. Listening part A, you are listening to a healthcare professional talking to a non-medical person. So that means the non-medical person will use non-medical language, and that's where a lot of this language comes from, okay, that I've chosen today. It comes from listening part A. Dimple was one that really caused people problems, okay, and if you don't know it, you don't know it, and if you hear that and that's one of the answers, it's a bit of a challenge, okay. Listening part B, to a lesser extent, listening part B, you do sometimes, occasionally, okay, you do occasionally have a healthcare professional and a non-medical, sorry, I meant to say medical person there, yeah, sometimes, not very often, but it does happen sometimes. And again, you're going to have that language, which is really useful to have. So, what should you do? Okay, some useful advice. First piece of advice, listen to podcasts. Okay, improve your vocabulary and how people speak to each other about medicine, health and well-being. There are many out there. I was listening to one recently which was about the use of SSRI, antidepressant medication, and the unknown, unexpected adverse effects. It was fascinating, really good, and it was easy for me to understand. Lots of good general medical vocabulary in there. Also, watch TV dramas and documentaries. Dramas are great. Things like House, Casualty in the UK, or Holby City. There are comedies as well, like Scrubs is a good American one. But documentaries are everywhere, all over YouTube. 24 hours in A&E, GPs behind closed doors, surgeons on the edge, flying doctors. In those documentaries, they are showing things like colleagues speaking to each other, healthcare professionals speaking to patients, patients speaking to each other. Loads of vocabulary. And finally, when you do an OET test and you get something wrong, make a note of the vocabulary. And it's not always the answers that this vocabulary is in. Review the transcripts. Even when they're doing the clues in between listening part A answers, you pick up lots of really good vocabulary. So let's just remind ourselves, if you want more vocabulary like this, come and join us at the school. We'd be really happy. But also, if you click below, there's a link and you can easily download a useful vocab sheet. And if you want to find out more about what we do, like and subscribe. Okay, have a great day. Good studying. Bye-bye.